Today's lesson is about buying a house with bad credit. Again, if you have bad credit, how can you buy your own personal home or your rental properties or fix and flips as a business? It doesn't matter. So if you want a family house or if you want an investment, how can you buy a house with bad credit without going to a bank? Now I'm going to show you 4 ways to buy a house without going to a bank, no matter if you have good credit or bad credit. Okay, but I'm going to assume that you may have bad credit, or you may know someone that has bad credit and they want to buy a house. So how can you deliver this message to them? Now, I have a free book at at MrNoFluff.com. Again, it's MrNoFluff.com, and it goes more into depth if you're interested. But let's pull the curtain back and get started about 4 ways you can buy a house without any credit or bad credit. The first one, which is I love this one. I've done it many, many times. The way I started was in the last crash, 2006, fourth quarter, 2007, 2008, when the market starts crashing down. And lending got very tight, okay? Even though I had good credit and I had a lump sum of money, I knew that I just didn't want to buy 1 or 2 properties. I wanted to buy a lot of properties. And so I, made my documents very presentable. I took it to many different lenders. I had cash in the bank, and every lender that I went to, left and right, they all declined me. And I knew this was a great opportunity because everyone was running this way out of exiting the real estate. Realtors, builders were going belly up, inspectors, etc. So I knew this was a great time to buy real estate because no one wanted to buy it. And therefore, I learned this strategy that I'm going to share with you right now, which is my favorite. It's called a subject to this existing mortgage. And what this strategy does is allow me to buy rental properties in America, and I'm sure in many other countries that have a central banking system, because most of the countries today have a central banking system, to buy properties without using my own credit. So if I have great credit or if I have bad credit, it allowed me to buy properties without ever going to a bank, without jumping to the hoops that the banks want you to jump through. For example, your debt to income ratio if you're in America, or how much down payment you have, or if you're an investor, hey, you own 3 houses and the 4th one is going to be real pain, or you own 9 and the 10th one's going to be real pain, etc. You don't have to go to those ways. Now, before I dive in and give you the meats and the potatoes, I want to let you know that this is not like it's not quick, okay? It's going to require you to do some work. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves and be willing to wash some dishes, okay? But on the other hand, you're able to buy properties without going to a bank. You're able to, own stuff without using your own credit, which is a very powerful strategy in America, because, if you have good credit, you want to safeguard it. And if you have bad credit, then you still want to own these things that people with good credit does. But what these strategies that I teach at the dojo is really good if, doesn't matter if you're an immigrant, if you're a refugee, because some banks won't lend to these people or somebody with bad credit. So, but just know that you're going to have to do some work. And I'm going to talk about right now what kind of work you have to do. But there's a lot of positive, but there's also negative. It's not like, you hire a realtor and you drive around and look at some homes and, you fill out an application, you get it. Okay. That's pretty simple. And everyone's doing that. So if you want to, the strategy that I teach is everyone's here. These aren't everyone. And you got to do something that's totally away from what everyone does, okay? And that's what I teach, okay? Some people may know it as owner financing, but there's a lot of different strategies in owner financing. It's kind of like species of animals. Okay, there's a lot of categories of animals that fit into one specific species. Okay, therefore, tonight I'm going to talk about four of them. And the very first one I'm going to talk about is a subject to, and what I just talked about is a couple of the negative things, because if you want something quick, then you don't want to keep watching this. But if you want something that has all these benefits of owning properties without going to a bank, without putting a large down payment down, getting a non-recourse loan, which means that if you happen to default, it's not going to hurt your credit. They're just going to collect the property, take the property back only. Because today, if you go borrow, a loan from, let's say, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, when you sign all the paperwork at the title company, two things happen. Okay, that's very, very important. One, you're going to sign something called DOT, Deed of Trust, which is a collateral instrument that you pledge to the bank, the bankers, the deed of the property, okay? If you default, if you don't make the payments, okay? The second thing that you're gonna sign is a promissory note that says, hey, that if you default, not is the bank only gonna be able to take the property, by the same time, they're gonna come after you personally, not only ruin your credit, but sue you for any deficiencies or any extras that they couldn't, get back. So it's kind of like they're going to give you the two punches, okay? Where I don't think that's really fair for the consumer or for me. And it's worse enough that if I default, if I put my money down and I make 5 years worth of payments or 10 years and I did improvements to the property, that if I happen to get sick for 3 months or something emergency happens, they're going to foreclose on me. That's already bad enough. But why should they come after me or ruin my credit, etc.? Because they're going to take the property, they're going to take that, okay? If there's improvements, and they take all that. So I don't think that's that fair. And so one of the powerful things that in the owner financing category, and I'm going to talk about four, okay? In my book, Mr. No Fluff, is totally free. No, you don't have to pay any shipping or anything like that, like the other guys do. When I say it's free, guys, okay? I get into it very deep. But the point going back to this is you're in the driver's seat. You don't have to go to the bank, put your hands in the shackle and say, yes, sir, no, sir, and now you're in the driver's seat. You're able to make decisions for yourself, and you could actually negotiate a fair win-win, because if this was the line, okay, and this is the bank, and this is you, whenever you go and want to get a loan, you have to be all here. You got to do exactly what these guys say. You got to basically bow down. Whatever they say, you got to do. Whatever they say, okay? If they say they're going to, which happens a lot, if they say your interest rate is going to be 3%, and then by you get to the closing, now it's like 3.5, you have no other choice to accept it. Many people do, because now they got the moving company, now they got all this extra stuff, and they're in a tough situation. So I don't think that's fair. Where with owner financing, the strategies that I'm going to show you, the four, guys, okay? If you want to get my book right now at mrnofluff.com, it's totally for free. We'll go into it deep, but coming back to the story, with owner financing, you create a win-win situation where it's like at least in the middle, okay? To negotiate a win-win where the seller or the lender, in this case, we're not going to be dealing with lenders, we deal with sellers, okay, that have homes, all right? They could meet us in the middle, and we can negotiate something in the middle. You can negotiate something here maybe, because they're going to give you a little owner financing, so maybe you don't pay them all the money they're asking for the top dollars, but you get a discount because this, or they give you lower interest rate, or whatever you guys negotiate. We'll talk about it. But the point I'm saying is that when you go with the homeowner direct, you're gonna always get a better deal if you just apply yourself, because homeowners are not thinking the same way as a corporate machine. Okay. They have hearts, and they probably have fell off the horse. Maybe they got sick, or they've gone to a divorce, or they lost their kids, or whatever the situation is. It was a death in the family, whatever. And so they can kind of relate to you, and they may, if they like you, they may work out with you. And that's what I did in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, and yonder. Okay. Because once I did it, these 4 strategies, okay. The first one I love is subject to, but once I did it, I realized that I could do it again, and I could do it again, and I could do it again. And just like you guys are, I was very, what's the word? Scared. I didn't think, I thought it was voodoo. This is not going to work. And, I think this is all BS. And, someone was trying to sell me something. Okay. But just like you, I had all these fears, and I didn't think it's going to work. And I invested my time, and I bought a course that talked about this, and I went in and applied myself. All right. And once I did my first deal, I knew that, hey, this thing did work. So I wasn't like a hard wood, where I was very firm and I was set in my beliefs, and everything was like, no, these are scam, okay, or this is not going to work. Okay. I had those ideas, but I was more like a bamboo tree, and I was willing to be flexible, willing to be curious, and willing to say, hey, if this thing does work, it can change my life, which really did change my life, because I was able to buy properties for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And what did I use those couple of grands for? I'll tell you in a second. But use just a couple of grands to ascertain a property, and then get massive cash flow, because I'm an investor. But if you want to live in it, you can live in it. One of the properties I lived in, actually many of the properties I lived in. Okay, I rented it to myself. But coming to the story, just a couple of grand, bought a property and make $80,000 when I sold it, plus the monthly cash flow for 5-6 years that I owned it, or 7 years, what have you guys. Okay. But if you want to live in it, you still can. Now, why do you need this small amount of money to, get some of these properties? Because you're dealing with motivated sellers. You may want to give them some money down for them to make happy. Most of these sellers that, I teach at the dojo, it's in my free book, where to go target, where to go find these people, is there might be motivation where they're behind in payments. Okay. And that, in my example, one of the properties that I bought in Dallas, Texas, it was a firefighter, and they were behind in payments. They were three months behind, and roughly became like $3,000 plus my closing fees and all that stuff to buy this house. So this is what the small amount of money is for. So what strategies that I used to buy that property from the firefighter? Okay, is the number one strategy I'm going to talk about is called a subject to. Okay, what is a subject to? It means that in this case, I targeted a home through advertisement. Okay, like and in this one, I think I did mail outs, or I did signs. I don't really remember, but I did one idea that we talk about in my book. Advertised. People called me. Okay, I picked up the phone. And I started talking to them, and I started asking them questions to see why they wanted to sell, what was their motivation, and set up an appointment and went there. And I just offered them, if they're willing.
Alert from Google Chrome.
Excuse me, guys. I offered them that if they were okay for me to make their back payments and just take over their payments, because even this firefighter, even though they were behind it, they needed to move because they just had another kid and they needed more space. So it was like a very win-win situation for him. And when I offered them, at first they said no, and then a couple of days later they called me and say, you know what, we thought about it, we want to do it. Okay, and all I had to do is take over their payments. I didn't have to go to a bank. I didn't have to fill out an application. I didn't have to give anybody my social security number. I didn't have to give anybody my company EIN number. I didn't have to do anything besides just advertise, which I show you in my book is totally for free at mrnofluff.com. Okay, so at the top right or something, this is the book or something. I advertised, picked up my phone. I asked them why they want to sell, what was their motivation, which is very, very important. We talk about it in my book. And then what I did is set up an appointment and went there. I heard their story. I built a report with them, and they liked me. I knew that I could help them out because they were behind in their payments, and their house was going to go to foreclosure, and it was going to ruin their credit. They could never buy another house. They just had a baby, and they need to get a new home. So I said, look, man, you guys need to move. It's behind. I'll pay for your closing, which normally a seller pays for, costs them thousands of dollars. There's no realtors involved, so the seller got to save thousands of dollars. And I said, look, man, I'll pay the rears, which is the amount that they were behind, which is the 3 months. And I said, I'll pay for your closing. And altogether it came around $3,000, and the house was in very, very nice shape. All I had to do is just hire some cleaning ladies, and they came and cleaned it. And then later on, I prepped it up, and I put some floorings in there for, renters, because the floorings that I had, I would have to go change the carpets. And so since I'm a professional, I replaced the carpets, but I didn't need to. The carpet cleaning would have worked perfectly, but I like to put vinyl floors in all the rental properties. And because for commercial, but simply put, the house was in great shape. I had new ACs, that the seller had done new work to the property. I had a beautiful deck in the back, beautiful backyard, humongous trees. It wasn't like I had to rehab anything, nothing. Now I didn't even have to replace the floors. I could just clean them and rent them out, but I just didn't want to. I wanted to get the highest amount for my money to rent it, so I just made a small amount of improvements into it, which I had the materials, because I buy the materials at the pallet, because I'm going to use this for all of them. So when I buy vinyl, I don't just buy 5 different one type of vinyl for all the rental houses. The paint the same, all rental houses. That way it's easy. I don't have to figure out what's what. Okay. So the strategy I use is called the subject to. When I offered the seller the offer, they accepted. We signed the paperwork. We went to the title company, the same title company that you go to if you have good credit, or if you go to the Bank of America or Wells Fargo, the same exact one. They drew up all the paperwork. Okay. I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to dry that up. Even though I know how to do that, at that time I didn't want to do that, because that was my very first deal. I didn't understand anything, and so I just let them do it. Okay, because I was just, at that time I was living in nice lofts that cost a lot of money, but I loved it, But then I was like, I want a house. This is the perfect time, because the crash had happened, but no bank was lending any money. Okay, even though I had money in the bank, I had great credit. It was just a credit crunch. No one was lending money. Banks were going belly up, and builders were going belly up. Realtors were hanging up their hats and their coats, and they were exiting the business. The real estate market was on fire. There was short sales everywhere. Everywhere that I went to in my area, they had foreclosures like crazy, and it was a great time for me. But the strategy that I'm showing you can happen in a downtime or a good time. And the reason I say that is because there's motivation all the time. People get married and they have 2 houses, and they have to want to move into one. So there's an extra home. Sometimes they can't sell it. Other people want to sell their homes because they have bad renters in there. Other people want to sell their homes and they have motivation because the house has foundation problems or major components of the house. Therefore, the house doesn't pass inspection. And what that does is that 97% or 90% of people that buy houses don't have cash, and they go to a bank, and the bank won't lend them money unless it passes inspection. So it's just a rat race. Okay. So there's a lot of people, what I'm saying is, that are motivated. Okay. In America, divorces, health problems, debt, job transfer. I can go on and on and on, guys, and I will still miss some, because every day I'm learning new motivations. Okay, and you guys can do that. Now, how did I find the seller? Okay, like I talked about, I advertised, and there's many different things you can do for advertisement. In my book, I show you what pool of people you should go and approach to get the deals, because not everyone is going to sell you their home via owner financing. These 4 strategies that I'm going to talk about, that's in my book for free at Mr. NoFluff.com, totally for free. You don't even have to pay for shipping. Just download it. Anyways, not all home sellers want to do that. Okay. Now, it's kind of like the pawn shop. Some of you guys may never been to a pawn shop. I've been to a pawn shop. Okay? I sold my stuff to a pawn shop. When I was in college, I had $25 a week, And I didn't drive my car because I didn't have any gas, and I just had a pedal, and it was very tough. So whatever I had, sometimes I sold it right at the pawn shop, and I never picked it up. Some of you guys may have gone to a pawn shop or may even bought something from the pawn shop. Now, pawn shops are not as popular anymore because now there's apps out there like 5 Miles or OfferUp or eBay or Craigslist. But before that stuff, guys, pawn shops were like your local bank in a sense, liquidation center. Okay, and so in real estate, what I do is I'm the pawn shop, and if you want to buy a house for your own home, you have a family, this is a great way to do it because you can use some of the strategies that professional investors like myself use, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so the very first strategy I talked about is called a subject to. If you want the remaining, get my book, it's free, MrNoFluff.com. Now, in that book, I talk about specific tools because not everyone is going to want to do this. Not every seller. You need to go to specific ponds to go fish. Okay. Okay. And you want to go to ponds to find these fishes or motivated sellers, or that's not very crowded. Okay. In the book, I talk about it. But when you go and market to these people, your odds of finding a motivated seller increases significantly versus just knocking on everyone's door or calling everyone that's trying to sell their home. Say, hey, man, are you motivated? Because majority of people, again, are not motivated. They don't need a pawn shop. Now, there's a lot of strategies that I show you on my blog at Mr. No Fluff, or even in some of my courses, okay, like the Mother Course. The Mother Course is 171 chapters. We talk about many different strategies besides the 4: how to buy houses, how to market them, how to talk to the sellers, how to put it in a contract, accept everything, closing, how to close them, so on. Okay. But coming to the story, the way I found this seller is this was me, right? And I was sad because I wanted to buy a house, but no bank would lend me the money. Okay. And so what I did is I started marketing to a pond and, of people that were motivated. Okay. And in these people, they all own houses. Now, not every one of these people that had a house that I marketed to wanted to sell me their home. Okay. Only a few, a handful. I was only just wanted to buy one house. So I had many choices. Okay. So what I did is I started marketing to a pond of motivated sellers. Then one of these guys, or many of these guys, a few of these guys, a handful of these guys called me. Some people called me, they were motivated. So I'm not including those. They picked up the phone and they called me. Right? And when they called me, I used a filtering system called my Ninja phone script, which gauges the seller's motivation to let me know if they're motivated, if they're willing to do owner financing, because I don't want to spend time with people, nor can I get a loan, because if I have bad credit, I can't get a loan. So this script, which you guys could download right on my website, allows me to know their motivation. Once I realized, let's say 3 people called me and only one was motivated, then I called them and I went to see their house and I put it in an offer, okay? And the seller and I negotiated somewhere in the middle, like we talked about earlier, and we fill out something called a contract. And in this case, with the fire, the guy that I bought their house that was a firefighter, I agreed to give them $3,000, not to give them, just to pay their arrears to their bank. And the guy agreed to give me his house, or the deed in this case, because the deed is like a car note, a car title, is the ownership of the property. So the seller agreed to give me the deed. I was going to give him $3,000. And then after that, every month I just made the bank's payment, and the bank's over here somewhere. Okay, bank. Well, it wouldn't be like this. There would be something like that. Okay. And the seller's payments were like, I can't remember right now, but like less than $1,200, 11 something. Okay. And I started making the payments. And the seller moved off. And then I put renters in there, and I think I rented it out for like in the beginning for like $1,600. Right? And that's how it went. And for many years I rented it out, and then eventually I moved into the property myself. Okay. So the seller was happy because I saved their credit. The house didn't go to foreclosure. If it went to foreclosure, everything they owned would be more expensive. Their car insurance, if they ever want to get an apartment, they have to put a bigger down payment or security deposit down. If they want to get, phones, they're going to have to put all this stuff that's credit based, because everything in America is pretty much credit based. Their life would have been more expensive. Plus, it would have hurt their credit for a long period of time. And so in this case, the seller was happy because I saved their credit. And I was happy because I didn't have to go to a stinky banker and get on my knees and say, please, can I borrow some money? Please, can I borrow some money? Okay. And the great thing is, because I didn't have to go to a stinky banker, I got to save a lot of money because I didn't have to get inspection. I didn't have to get title policy. I didn't have to pay all these notaries and all these dumb fees that they charged me, right? The title company that I went to, right, was an investor friendly. So you can shop around, and I show you how to do that in my book, to find someone that's friendly, or you can go to the most expensive one, like the title companies want you to, okay? It doesn't matter, but I decided not to because this is my money, and I didn't want to spend more money than I had to, right? But I wanted somebody professionals to do it for me. So I shopped around and find an affordable title company. They did the paperwork. I didn't have to go to a bank. I didn't have to, bend over for these people. And I don't have a problem with that. If you want to do that and be the herd, I just didn't want to do that. And the reason I didn't want to do that, because at first I tried to be that. I tried to do that. But it was a great universe that said, no, my son, there's better ways to do it. And I need you to work hard. I need you to combat your insecurities, your fears, your unbelief that there's all these possibilities out here. And if you're willing to take action, you could do it. So, it was a great opportunity. At first, I was mad as sucker, but it really became a great opportunity. And that's why I'm here teaching you guys, okay, giving you this stuff for free, because it empowered me so much. And I thought to myself, like, this is kind of like the scam where college is, where, everyone tells us, for me, like, hey, you go to school and after college, you're going to get a great paying job. But they forgot to tell me that, hey, it's going to take me 5 years or 4 years or 6 years. It's going to take me a significant amount of money. By the time I come out, I will be in debt. And then it's going to be so hard to find a job. And I got to go to interview. And there's so many people interviewing for the same job. And then they're only going to give me a phone interview versus a face-to-face. And it may take them 3 weeks to get back with me. And, just all this stuff, okay? And I decided not to do that, right? I mean, like, in this case, to buy a house, I didn't decide to go with the herd. And I was so lucky, not because I didn't want to, it's because the universe said, hey, son, this is a great opportunity for you to have this other way of thinking, creative thinking, and then pass along to other people that want, a property that can't get it traditionally. Now, again, it's not a 1-2 step where I just fill out an application and I jump with my realtor and I go and get a house. Okay, if you want that and you want to get into debt, you want to sign a DOT and a promissory note, like I explained earlier. And if you want all this building now, then go. There's no problem with that. But some of us want to have bad credit and we want to buy a house, okay, or we're an investors and maybe we have 9 properties and the 10th one the bank won't give it to us anymore, okay, because our debt to income ratio, whatever the story they pull, okay. So this is a great opportunity in America and many other countries that have central banking system, which is many countries, because they do this stuff, okay. And now the banker probably wasn't happy that I just took over their payments. But they were happy to collect my payments, and they took it all the way to the very end. So I cashed out the loan and made $100,000 plus from equity cash out. plus all the monthly payments that I got, the difference between the 1,200 versus the 1,600. I actually ended up later on renting that house for $1,800 a month. So it went up, okay? Because that's one of the benefits of, being a landlord, because your rent is inflation proof, okay? What is inflation? Inflation is you have $10, this 10 items. 3 years from now, you're 3 items, you could only buy 2 items, okay? So your purchasing power decreases. It's a hidden tax. And that's why rental properties are great income producing assets that hedges against inflation. But that's a different topic, guys. Now, if you want to learn how to do all this stuff, I just talked about one strategy, which is called a subject to. You just take over people's payments if they have a mortgage. Now, if they don't have a mortgage, then you can use some of the other strategies that I have in my book at mrnofluff.com. And if you enjoyed this video, click like, share it with your friends and family that maybe have bad credit, or maybe they want to get into the real estate business, or maybe they're thinking about, buying a house and doing Airbnb or whatever. Okay, let's empower other people. Thanks so much for watching. Don't take no for an answer, and go out there and hustle. See you again.